In this series, we address frequent topics that most managers and business leaders struggle with. We offer new perspectives and tips to help you test alternative behaviors or identify more productive paths to tackle your challenges.
Hello and welcome to Conversations with Grooa. Today we will talk about the pitfalls of training on inclusion. I'm Elena Di Girolamo and I'm here with Laura Lozza.
Hello.
We are taking an example from one of our clients. Let's call her Mariana. She was appointed to lead the diversity and inclusion agenda within an international company. Her new position was created after a number of failures. The company had earlier engaged an external consultant to run a mandatory diversity and bias awareness workshop. They had started with training one small division, training everyone, and then also selected a few champions from other divisions. The feedback from the participants was not positive. I can read from Mariana's summary. First set of comments was about overstressing discriminating behaviors in a way that many felt under scrutiny, unfairly accused and publicly shamed. Instead of raising awareness, the course made them angry and unappreciated. Another set of comments was about the lack of concrete actions from the course. Although they were pointed in the direction of staying more alert, giving a benefit of doubt, and frequently challenging their own intentions as individuals, there was no space for discussing their own specific situation, nor the group dynamics in their area. Defining strategies that could address their primary areas of concern was left to a potential follow-up to be carried on themselves, and that never actually happened. The third set of comments by the managers of the division, where everyone was commended to attend, was about the mandatory aspect. They felt punished rather than being offered an opportunity, like it was instead usual for most other training courses. The champions reacted a bit differently. They felt they were being trained to police others and many did not like to become agents of compliance in this delicate field. Mariana needed to fix this and came out with a better proposal to continue the training, but she was initially unsure about how to avoid the above pitfalls. Laura, I know that you had several conversations with Mariana. What was your advice? I'm sure it can help also others.
Yes, Elena, in fact, I did have several discussions with Mariana during our executive coaching sessions, and we have actually now together designed a small pilot course which has received more positive feedback by her colleagues. By the way, the feedback that you just read that the company received by the initial participants is absolutely spot on. Many companies say that they feel they have somewhat failed with the diversity and inclusion programs. And a recent survey by McKinsey about the Great Resignation shows that more than 50% of people resign because they lack a feeling of belonging. They do not feel included. So inclusion is very important for the continuation of the business. And many companies who had fielded D&I training before the Great Resignation were actually kind of checking a box, but not really putting their heart in it, without stating intentions, without building the capabilities for creating an inclusive environment. So those are the type of pitfalls that you can read into the comments that you just shared. So let's get back to Mariana, her example. The first thing that we did was starting with intention. We said that being clear about intentions and building the capabilities for inclusion are the two most important things, and not just checking a box to give mandatory training. So she had to check her own assumptions. Why do we really want this training? Is it because it is a must to do it, or is it really important for the business? Actually, at the beginning of our conversations, Mariana realized that she herself had just looked at the assignment, the new assignment, as having to execute an uncomfortable task, since there had been a failure before. And she was a little bit disappointed, actually, rather than having the opportunity to use her usual ability as a strategic thinker. She thought that this was almost a sidetrack from her career, or almost a punishment. And so she actually, after our conversation, went back to her own management and inquired, which is always a very good idea, as to why they want her for this assignment. And she found out throughout the discussion a couple of important things. For her, the first one was that, yes, they were kind of checking the box. The CEO had received a question by the board, the supervisory board. What do you do about the diversity and inclusion? He didn't know. He asked his directors, and the request trickled down, but nobody actually had a conversation about it. And as they started to talk with Mariana, they actually realized that they had intuitively selected her, Mariana, because of her knowledge, vast knowledge of the company, of course, through different jobs in different operational positions, but also because of her strategic ability to see the big picture. And even though this initial decision had been intuitive, throughout the discussion, they could voice some important aspects. They actually admitted that they were a little bit concerned that they felt that there were many talents within the organization that were not on the radar, like they didn't appear on their succession planning. Their succession planning was always showing just the same type of people, and they were generally aware that there should be more potential around. And occasionally they did find, the odd person who was not on the radar who was contributing, and so that was their concern. How come they were not able to harness the potential that we have within the company. And also they sort of admitted with Mariana that they were trying to steer, to hold a tight boat, and they were afraid sometimes that maybe people didn't dare to disagree. And typically when you have different people with a diversity of perspectives, then you might have some more challenges, some more options on the table. So they helped Marianne understand why they had chosen her, and they also thanked her for having the conversation.
Okay, and how did this clarification help?
Well, this conversation was really a true eye-opener for Marianne. She realized that she was the right person. And she realized that she had been biased herself, taking very negatively the initial assignment. So she started to get, to feel very engaged into the task, and she started to record and circulate a number of videos in which she shared the concerns that they were discussed by the management, acknowledging that it was really important for the company, for the future of everyone, that we could create the capabilities for getting all together and working, throughout the diversity that can be sometimes hard. And she did acknowledge, this is also a very important aspect, she did say it feels more natural to talk to people who are thinking like us, and sometimes we might get frustrated when there is someone coming from a very different perspective, but those discussions are so useful and so important. So that was the thing that she started, circulating videos, even interviewing some of the champions from the previous experiment, from the previous training. So be very transparent, very authentic, which is always a way to engage people. And then she started to think about a different type of program, and I supported her on that.
Okay, that's interesting that sometimes we just start executing a task without even checking on the intentions, just making assumptions. But what came next? Because, of course, as you said, once the intentions were clarified and the initial assumptions corrected, she was more motivated. But how did she create a different learning experience?
Yeah, exactly. How do you do that after clarifying the intentions and after communicating it through the videos and the interviews? The assignment was no longer about how to choose a better training program. It was more about how to create a learning experience which could support everyone in becoming more inclusive in their way of working. It was about building the necessary competencies, as I was mentioning before, not just going through what are the biases and getting people to feel annoyed about they're telling me that I'm prejudiced. So she moved on to providing a set of training opportunities about how to increase our listening and communicating abilities beyond borders, how to improve decision making by creating alignment, common standpoint, common ground before rushing to try to agree or to vote, so that all insights could be included and form a basis for some collective intelligence. How to deal with disagreements, with the fear of disagreements, and so on. So together we actually designed a set of different opportunities, a inclusive capability curriculum, we called it, with some fundamentals and highly recommended parts, not mandatory, but very recommended, and then some optional parts that could be offered in addition. And each of the previous champions also were encouraged to do a pilot, to pick a team of stakeholders and go through the program together, discussing the specific situations, gaining the support of the trainers for designing specific next steps. So they still hired different types of consultants specialized in different parts of the programs, but they demanded to have more tailored opportunities so that everyone could have not just the general training, but the opportunity to discuss what does it mean for us and what are our gaps and how can we take it forward. So that initial test was quite positive, and they're extending the pilot.
So just to summarize, start with clarifying the intention in a positive and engaging way. Then, if you have them, share your concerns about the business and the people, and just make it relevant and warm and human. Then focus on building the necessary competencies and on teaching the people what must change. And in the end, provide opportunities to customize and discuss actions.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for a great summary. If you want to know more, just get in contact. info@grooa.com.
If you have a question or a topic of interest, please email Lara@grooa.com. Thanks for listening.